love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running.
Welcome back to another edition of Coach's Corner. My name is Walter Beede, aka Baseball Lifer. On Twitter, we have Baseball Lifer 11. Here on YouTube, it's Baseball Lifer. And the whole purpose of this channel is to try and get some questions answered from parents and student athletes from across the country on all topics related to youth, travel, baseball, high school, and college baseball. And today we're fortunate enough to be joined by a former Vanderbilt alum, current Lexington, Kentucky resident, Mike DeSalvo. Mike, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me, Walter.
Not a problem. So we can go on and on about our beloved Commodores, anchor down. So we have that out there. I have my Mike Leach jacket on today, so we're all in the SEC family. So, Mike, I know you have a 12-year-old son, and what can I answer for you with regard to his future, his interest in the game?
Walter, my first question I have is, so for the student athlete that is looking to maximize sort of their academic aspects of the process, how does that differ as we're kind of getting into the high school or late middle school, high school point of the process? How would that differ from the guys that are like, you know, D1 focused, but if you're looking for like an IB or a D3 or that sort of thing?
Well, it all starts with the transcript. And so this is something that's near and dear to my heart because I'm a huge proponent of trading athletic ability for academic excellence. You know, with regard to education, it lasts a lifetime. Baseball has a finite number associated with it. Some it's early and after high school, others it's after college, and the select few after a professional baseball career. With regard to academics, I always try to get parents to understand the goal is to have a good, solid transcript to coincide with good community service activities. The whole focus, as you know, as a Vanderbilt alum, is those academic colleges and universities really want to know what you as a student are going to provide for that university with regard to campus involvement, student body activity. What are you going to do with our degree? How are you going to shine light on our university as a future alum? So whenever those admission guidance kind of, you know, people are starting to interview prospective students, you know, the academic athletic liaisons from various Ivy Leagues, NESCAT schools, Patriot League schools, military academies, et cetera. They want to know what are your goals and how can we help you achieve our goals. Don't tell us what you've done. Tell us what you aspire to do and how we're going to assist you with that. So starting with, let's say, late middle school, it's good to kind of have a plan of attack with regard to the transcript. Know your strengths, get off to a good start, you know, A's and B's. You know, I always hear a lot of people kind of give conflicting information with regard to reach up and take those AP honor courses, be aggressive, you know, early in your high school, late junior high, middle school, and early high school years. Really, the focus should be on those A's and B's. Get off to a good, solid start. And then as you gain comfort within a certain niche, academically, whether that's the math, the English, the sciences, the languages, what have you. Once you're getting post junior high into early high school, I always recommend either an ACT or SAT tutor that kind of does some prep work for that, you know, that pre-SAT or that pre-ACT to kind of get that kind of, you know, that study habit and those skills for those standardized testing. Those are more valuable than a hitting lesson or a pitching lesson or something along those lines. Give you a great case in point. Had a young man with an absolute great, super transcript, with the exception of getting a C+ in AP Honors Latin 1 as a 9th grader, as a freshman. And every other grade other than that was a solid B+ to A-, etc. He had that 1 C+. And that prohibited him from getting into Harvard. But ultimately, he did end up at a very high level arguably the second best college or university in the country. So I always try to tell parents, make sure you're giving some of that forethought to the transcript. Know where your son's strengths are academically, try to attack those early. And then with regard to the weak areas, getting that tutor, that ACT prep tutor, SAT prep tutor will pay large dividends, because let's fast forward, your son is 12. By the time he enters high school, I believe there'll be the super mega conference of which Vanderbilt would be a participant of. And those schools will kind of break away from the NCAA, and they'll have their own scholarship and coaching staff stipends and so forth. But the other, what I call the meat and potatoes of the academics, as I alluded to, NESCAT, which is Bates, Bowdoin, Tufts, Amherst, Williams, et cetera. The Patriot League, which is the military academies, Holy Cross, Bucknell, Lafayette, Lehigh, and then of course the all-powerful Ivy League. You know, those schools will be now considered to be those mid-majors that'll be highly sought after. And that academic money does come in some way, shape, or form from that SAT and ACT. Even though some schools are test optional, it always gives you that more bang for your buck with regard to your academic package that they can assemble. Because for instance, Notre Dame has a 26 ACT minimum. And then every point higher from 26, you're going to get additional funding from the school. Obviously, the Ivies are kind of looking into that 30, 36 corridor as far as ACT. But just bear in mind that academic money tends to be from the, obviously the transcript, the curriculum, the weighted GPA, the Q score as it's referred to, as well as that standardized testing. So big fan of getting a tutor, either a peer tutor, professional tutor, whatever works best for you, and anything that might be weak, whether it's science. I notice a lot of boys tend to be a little slower on the science end of it, or English. They tend to really love math. So try to find where those areas of weaknesses are academically, and then kind of fill that in as best you can as you go up that from 8th grade up through senior year.
So to follow on to that, the with the ACT and SAT, is there something where you can just be like, it can be like slower and don't rush it, because they're not taking those exams till they're sophomores? And you know, I worry about sometimes you get like FOMO, people are all going to showcases and blah blah blah. I mean, is it just go ahead and hey, just let the process play out? Kind of like, you know, like don't worry if everybody's going doing X. Just
I will tell you exactly the correct process for your son, and basically for everyone of this age group. We don't want to worry about showcases of any kind until the completion of their junior year, going into their rising senior fall. And the reason for that is really simple. Those high-level academic schools do not get aggressive for the most part. There are other exceptions, sure, but for the majority, and let's say 85%, 90%, they begin to evaluate prospective student athletes at the completion of the junior spring. And so that gives you a really good idea what the transcript looks like. It gives you a good runway from 8th grade into that junior year to kind of ramp up into your, you know, develop your study habits, kind of get your standardized testing, kind of, you know, the tutoring, and kind of get a few tests under your belt. With regard to ACT, you can super score that. But regarding like camps and showcases, camps are always great, especially, you know, I have an affinity for Tim Corbin's Vanderbilt camp. Those are very educational and instructional based. Do they recruit out of that? Yes. But for the most part, you're learning the nuances and the daily disciplines that it takes to be a college athlete. Those can be done, those types of camps, freshman year as more of a just an event to give you an education with regard to the college workout, but nothing with regard to recruiting. I always tell parents, every college coach at every level right now is saying, slow down, take a deep breath. you don't know what you want to be when you're a freshman in high school. You don't know what you want to major in as a freshman or sophomore in high school. You don't have that academic acumen to kind of be pointing you in the right direction. You don't have that compass, academic compass. So slow the whole process down. And then once you get to that end of your sophomore year, going into your junior year, you start to gain a little traction, physical maturation, academic maturation, they start to sync up. That's about the time that Tyler kind of made his decision. And it came down to like UVA, Michigan, and Vanderbilt, and obviously we chose in the 2014 Natty. Thank you very much. But, a lot of parents race to these showcases. And it's really nothing more than a money grab, to be perfectly honest with you. Those students that have the academic strength are highly sought after, because what they bring to a university is not only a strong academic profile, but they're bringing an awareness to their alumni through athletics. And as a Vanderbilt alum, I'm sure you can recognize 2014, that brought the whole Vanderbilt community together. And that's really at all levels of college athletics, regardless of the division, is what they're after. So I think you're going at it in the right way. I think the focus being academics, and then bringing up the baseball skill set development during the ages of 12 to say 15, 16. The biggest thing here is, on top of the academic piece, put the strength piece in now at 12. In Kentucky, there's lots of great training facilities, but I find that people like Eric Cressy, who I had in Tyler's life, and he does a lot of remote work, but I will tell you, those people are mentors. The field, weight room, how to make good decisions, how to really hydrate, and how to sleep habits, get your sleep habits properly set up, as well as your nutrition, your caloric intake. You want that all to go collectively into the student athlete. A lot of people approach this from an athlete student, and it's really the inverse. Regardless of where you want to go to college, you have to be a student. You have to understand the routine and the discipline and the structure that it takes to be a student athlete at the collegiate level. So I think you're off to a great start, myself personally, because you obviously have a good academic foundation for your son.
Listening to a bunch of your podcasts and some various other podcasts with Eric Cressy, I listen to his stuff when he doesn't get too technical into the sports.
Goes right over my head too.
I just skip. Sorry, skip the next one. And there's a recurring theme about getting that initial sort of from the baseball side, that skill set, come to Jesus moment, for lack of a better term, to where your kid really is at, so we're not delusional dad or whatever. How would you go about finding the right way to do that? I mean, you got there's a million things out there. You got, TBR, perfect game, area. I mean, there's this. I mean, where as a parent, where do I even start to go get an honest evaluation of okay, my kid is D1, D2, D3. They ain't gonna make the high school team.
Well, the best place to start, first of all, none of the perfect game and PBR, in my opinion, are really relevant at 12, 13, 14, and 15. Do they have their place at the older ages? Absolutely. But at your son's age, high school coach or high school player, find someone within your community that does this. In other words, okay, the local high school coach, could even be the JV coach. Hey, all I want to know is, can you give me an idea of where my son's skill sets are either lacking or strong? And then from that, be able to say to them in the same conversation, do you have any suggestions? Does he need to build arm strength? Does he need more fielding work? For instance, you can get fielding work on your own by throwing a ball against a wall. You can get throwing work by the same thing, throwing a ball against the wall, playing catch with the football, play catch more, pitch less, hitting broomsticks, acorns, rocks, wiffle balls, plastic golf balls. But you want to start local high school. If that's not accessible, try to find a local either junior college, community college. Heck, if you're in Lexington, go up to Kentucky, find a college student, put a little thing out there and just say, hey, looking for a college baseball player, former or current, that can give me an evaluation on my son. They'll do that gladly. And that's going to pay tremendous dividends because they're going to be candid. They're going to be honest. More importantly, there's no skin in the game for them. They're not in it for making any money, but it gives you a good foundation. The other thing you can do, fire me off a video. Just all you have to really do is make a simple video of your son playing catch and then swinging. Doesn't have to be in a live game, just whether the ball's on a tee or you're doing front toss or side toss, anything like that. Anybody, like for myself or Butch, or we can always give you feedback on that. It shouldn't cost you money to get an evaluation. But I always tell people, start with your local high school coach, because ultimately they're the ones that your son is going to be playing for in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. Throw this out here, it just kind of came to me. So is there a difference between like sort of your, like, we were talking about the Ivy Leagues and the D3 and academic versus like a Vanderbilt, if you're going to go like preferred walk-on route? Would there be a difference in approach, that Vanderbilt's going to recruit at a younger age, I guess, versus
so a school like Vanderbilt versus the Ivies. Vanderbilt being in the SEC, if Tim were put on truth serum, and I'm certainly not speaking on behalf of him, I'm just sharing what he has shared repeatedly with me. Because they're in the SEC, they have to maintain some type of competitive balance, and there are boys that they will commit to younger than I think maybe he would want to, but in an effort of being competitive with regard to recruiting classes. Whereas Ivy Leagues and Patriot Leagues, they're going to be much more patient for three big reasons. The first of which is physical maturation. What is this young man capable of becoming? Two, obviously, and really this probably should be first, is that academic piece starts to come into a little bit clearer focus with regard to the standardized testing. You've completed that junior year, which is arguably the most difficult year in high school. And then the biggest one of all is there's some level of competition that they've competed with and against over those 3 years. So they tend to be a little bit more seasoned with regard to being a competitive athlete, which is what those schools really want. All schools really want, more than anything, is a competitive athlete that is not afraid to fail, that is going to compete at all times. But I will tell you, there's a fine line between the SEC and the Ivy Leagues, and some of that has to do with depth. But the other part of it is consistency, meaning that on a consistent basis, an SEC team is going to be playing elite players fairly all 56, 54 games throughout the calendar year, and then obviously into the regionals. Where with Ivy Leagues, you're going to kind of have an ebb and a flow. 1 year Columbia is really good, 1 year Harvard's really good, in Dartmouth, etc. So the difference is that speed, that strength is just a notch bigger, faster. And so that's why when your son is 12, if you focus on the athleticism and the strength, most boys, I would say to you, if 80,000 boys are playing varsity baseball, I'm going to tell you at least 50,000 of those boys are not physically prepared to compete at the Division I or high Division III level. In fact, I would tell you that of all college freshmen year in and year out, almost 90% of those boys are not physically prepared for the intensity and the duration of a college season, which starts in the fall, goes through the winter. SEC Division I starts February 15th and goes right in through hopefully Omaha. So you're talking, mid-January start to mid-June. So that's 6 months of straight baseball. So the physical demands of a student athlete, there's no way of really understanding until you immerse yourself in it. So those student athletes that tend to get in and dive in, whether it's with a Cressy or a Nunzio or a Ben Fairchild, whoever is in getting into that strength kind of what I call program earlier, is going to be paying the dividends and bearing the fruit come their junior and senior year. But I will tell you, by the year 2025, 2026, college baseball is going to look totally different than it does today. I think you're going to see Harvard, Ivy Leagues, Patriot League, Some of those mid-majors are going to be in the NCAA Division I AA. And I think the Super Division will be its own television created kind of mega power school. But emphasis on strength, training, conditioning, and academics from 12 to 15, 16, really all the way through after the age of 12. If you get your son to understand daily discipline, daily routine, and the structure of what that looks like. In other words, 168 hours in a week. I want to make sure I'm getting at least that 57 to 65 hours of sleep. Now we're down into 100 hours. You're going to have 30 to 40 at least academic. And then, with regard to college, you're going to have 28 to 35 hours of baseball time. So you're not going to quite have that in high school. But if you add in that strength training and that nutrition time period, meaning get up early, make my breakfast, have 1,000 calories before I go to school, you get into that routine, it's going to carry over into college.
Awesome.
Does that answer those questions?
Yes, thank you. These are awesome.
You're very, very welcome. And then, Mike, anytime you need, you just reach out. We talk anyway online, but anytime you have a decision to make, should I attend this? Should I do that? Just reach out. Let me know. I'll give you my thoughts and opinions, or I'll have Tyler give you his thoughts or opinions, or Kyle, one or the other. And then we'll make sure that at least we're pointing you in what we think is the ultimate direction. And then also in the future, we're going to have the college coaches back doing these Zoom calls. And we're going to start up next Monday doing our Twitter space and things like that. So you'll be able to submit questions to that too. So I'm always available for you.
I need all that content for the long road trips. My son plays travel hockey as well, so we're on the road a lot because there's no teams in Lexington to play. So
well, being in the Northeast, we're big hockey guys up here. So I can tell you, if you run that by Corbs, he'll tell you all about Bobby Orr and the big bad Bruins of the early 70s. That's how we all fell in love with hockey up here. So, but that's great that he's a multiple sport athlete. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, Mike, I want to say thank you to you, and thank you for everybody that joined us today. I want to make sure if you have any comments from today's video, please put them down in the comments section. You can follow us and subscribe to the channel, Baseball Lifer. Follow me over at Twitter at Baseball Lifer 11, and also hit the like button before you leave, before you head out. And as always, be good and enjoy baseball. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.